Picture this. It is a quiet morning in a small neighborhood in Yokohama. A father walks his 3-year-old daughter to a low wooden building on the corner. He kneels down. He helps her change from her outdoor shoes into a pair of small white indoor slippers. A teacher in a soft apron greets the child by name. The father bows slightly. He says goodbye. He leaves. The whole exchange takes maybe 2 minutes. There are no tears. There is no negotiation. There is no parenting book in his pocket. And the cost of leaving his daughter there for the day is roughly 300 yen. About $2 American. Now picture an American morning. A mother in Atlanta is on her phone in the kitchen, trying to find a daycare slot for next month. The waitlist is 14 months long. The price she finally finds, in a center 30 minutes from her job, is $2,400 per month. She does the math in her head while pouring coffee. That is more than her car payment, her electric bill, and her health insurance combined. She is exhausted before her workday has even started. And she has not yet figured out what to do this afternoon, when she will need to leave work 2 hours early to pick her child up. She's not figured out what to do tomorrow, when her sitter has called in sick. She has not figured out what to do next week, when school is closed for a teacher training day she did not know about. This is not about money. Or rather, this is not only about money. In the next 10 minutes, I want to show you the 4-part method that ordinary Japanese families use to raise children without the constant low-grade exhaustion that has become normal in the United States. 4 parts. 1 ancient idea behind them. A short note before we begin. This is not a video about importing a foreign government to your home. You cannot vote your way to a Japanese daycare system. But the philosophy behind that system, that you can absolutely begin practicing tonight. Have you ever felt that parenting in this country has become a kind of solo project management? You are the cook, the driver, the educator, the therapist, the disciplinarian, the scheduler, the cleaner, the financial planner. And every single decision feels like it depends entirely on you. That is not a personal failure. That is a structural feature of how American family life is organized. Japan does something different. Beginning in April of 2026, Japan rolled out one of the most ambitious family policy reforms in its modern history. The program is called Childcare for All Children. In Japanese, it is written as Kodomo誰でも通園制度. Until this reform, getting a spot at a licensed Japanese daycare usually meant proving a need for it. You had to prove you were employed full-time. Stay-at-home parents could not access daycare. Freelancers could not access it. Part-time workers could not access it. This new program ends that requirement entirely. Any infant or toddler from 6 months to 2 years of age can now attend daycare for up to 10 hours per month. Regardless of whether the parents work, do not work, or work in non-standard arrangements. The cost is around 300 yen per hour, roughly $2 American. And this came on top of an already existing system in which children from age 3 to 5 attend free preschool, with no income limits, in every town and city in the country. But the policy itself is not the most interesting part of this story. The most interesting part is what happens inside those buildings. And the word at the heart of it, Mimamoru, it is written with 2 characters. Mi meaning to watch. Mamoru, meaning to guard or protect. The 2 together create something English does not have a single word for. A kind of attentive vigilance that does not act, a presence that does not push. Mimamoru is the Japanese pedagogical practice of watching over children, attentively and patiently, while deliberately stepping back from intervening. It is not absence. It is not negligence. It is something rarer. It is presence without interference. Researchers from Hiroshima University have spent years studying how this approach actually plays out in Japanese daycares. What they found is striking. When 2 children fight over a toy, the typical American educator intervenes within seconds. The Japanese educator, on average, waits. She moves closer. She watches. She keeps the children physically safe. But she lets the conflict unfold long enough for the children to discover on their own the social skills required to resolve it. And research published in the Early Childhood Education Journal documents that the underlying assumption of Mimamoru is the educator's deep trust in the child's inherent capacity to learn through everyday social interaction, not through correction. Not through reward, not through punishment, through being trusted to figure it out. Professor Yosuke Hirota at Osaka Metropolitan University has traced this idea even further back. He links Mimamoru to a premodern Japanese understanding of nature itself. The idea that growth is something you cultivate from the side, not something you force from above. A gardener watering a seed, not a sculptor carving a stone. The sculptor decides in advance what the stone must become. The gardener trusts that the seed already knows. The gardener's job is to make sure there is sun, water, and protection from the worst weather. And this changes everything about how parenting actually feels. When you understand Mimamoru, the 4-part method that runs through Japanese childcare suddenly makes sense. And it suddenly stops feeling foreign. Because every part of it is something you can practice in your own home, today, with the children you already have. Element 1. Trust as the default starting position. In most American parenting culture, the default assumption is that a child is a small, irrational creature who must be trained, corrected, and continuously redirected. This assumption is invisible because it is everywhere. You see it in the parenting books. You see it in the social media advice. You see it in the way grandparents are now expected to step lightly around their own grandchildren. The Japanese assumption is the opposite. The child is a small, learning person who is already trying to do the right thing. The adult's job is not to insert constant guidance. The adult's job is to make sure the room is safe enough that the child's natural attempt to figure things out can actually unfold. This single shift, when you make it inside yourself, changes the entire emotional weather of your day. Element 2. The pause before the intervention. This is the practical mechanic of Mimamoru. A child stumbles. Your impulse is to lift them. A sibling argument starts. Your impulse is to settle it. A small fight breaks out over a toy. Your impulse is to take the toy away. The Mimamoru educator does not move yet. She watches. She moves closer, she stays alert. She keeps the children physically safe. But she lets the situation breathe long enough for the children to discover what they can do without her. And what the Hiroshima University researchers found is that, in the vast majority of conflicts they observed, the children resolved the situation themselves within a minute or two, without an adult voice, without a punishment, without a reward. The skill that grew was the skill of being a person in a room with other people. Element 3. The other children in the room are part of the teaching. In an American daycare, there is often one trained adult for every 3 to 4 toddlers, and the model is essentially individual care, scaled up. In a Japanese hoikuen, the ratio is similar, but the emotional model is different. The other children are not background to the child's day. The other children are the point. Conflicts with peers, friendships with peers, observation of peers handling their own moments. This is where the developmental work is happening. The educator's job is to protect the space in which that work can occur. Element 4. The parent is part of a community, not a solo manager. This is the element that the policy reform of 2026 really unlocks. By opening daycare to every family in Japan, regardless of employment status, the new system quietly delivers a message to parents. You are not the entire ecosystem of your child's development. The neighborhood is. The educators are. The other children are. The grandparents and aunts down the hall are. You are a part of something larger than your household. And that single fact, more than any specific tactic, is what makes parenting in Japan feel less like running a small business alone, and more like contributing to a quiet collective project. Now I want to be honest with you because this matters. Japan is not a parenting paradise. The same culture that produces this calm, communal approach to early childhood also produces some of the longest working hours in the developed world. Japan struggles with hikikomori, young adults who withdraw from society and stay isolated for years. The country has one of the lowest birth rates on Earth, hovering around 1.2 children per woman, which is precisely why this 2026 policy reform was so urgent in the first place. And Japanese mothers, in particular, often carry an enormous, often invisible weight inside the household. Mimamoru is not magic, and the policy is not a fix. What I am offering you is something subtler. A philosophy that begins from a different place. A philosophy that assumes the child is already trying, that the parent is not alone, And that growth happens at the speed of trust, not at the speed of correction. That philosophy is portable. You can carry it into your own kitchen tonight. 3 Japanese ideas. Mimamoru. Watch and protect. Hoikuen. The shared building where children grow up among other children. Kodomo誰でも. Every child belongs. Together they describe a culture that has decided, slowly and without fanfare, that raising a child is not a private burden. It is a shared project. The Western parent feels exhausted not because parenting is harder than it used to be. The Western parent feels exhausted because parenting is now done alone, in a room, by 1 or 2 adults, with no quiet collective to hold any of the weight. Mimamoru is the practice of trusting that the room itself, and the people in it, can carry some of what you have been trying to carry by yourself. You can begin one Mimamoru moment tonight. The next time your child stumbles, pause for 2 breaths before you move. The next time a small argument starts, watch for 60 seconds before you intervene. The next time you feel the urge to fix something, ask whether it actually needs fixing yet. That is all. If this video gave you something to think about, share it with another parent who is tired of carrying it all. And if you want more on child psychology and the world's quietest parenting traditions, subscribe. There is more coming. See you in the next one.